We're going to move on to our next segment, brought to you by Engineer Tax Services, where engineering and accounting come together. Joining us today on Skype is Julio Gonzalez, my friend and CEO of Engineer Tax Services. Welcome, Julio, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Ugh, it's time to do our taxes again. I'm not ready. So let's talk about taxes and Social Security benefits. So do taxes limit Social Security benefits? This isn't something I really know about.
Well, boy, it's a concern, right? I mean, we're all paying taxes into a system and hoping that when we retire, that Social Security income will be there. And basically, the concern is that they're in a deficit for the first time and that deficit could bankrupt the system over the next 3 decades. And that's really a big concern. So, people are living longer and that's eating up the funds.
Yeah, so how exactly is Social Security taxed?
It comes out of our paychecks, and then the employers match it. So that's really how Social Security money goes into the system, and they basically track everyone individually, and you accumulate through your, being taxed on your payroll, and then the employer matching that tax. And then hopefully at the end you have an account where you can draw on for retirement.
So to me, it seems like you're getting hit twice because you're already taxed to pay into the Social Security system when you're working, and you're taxed again. To me, I just don't like it. I just don't like taxes. But on the flip side, though, there was a milestone where the Social Security, basically the trust fund, it had to be tapped for the first time. And people say the reason why we have to tax Social Security is because it's going to be insolvent. Do you think that taxing is a way to prevent insolvency of Social Security?
Well, that's certainly one way. I think that probably and more likely they'll just up the age to when you can start qualifying to take out the funds. I mean, they've moved it up several times over the past few decades, and I imagine that they're just going to move it up again.
It's a hard issue, right? Because no one really wants to talk about what is going to happen to Social Security, but we do see, a lot of senators in Congress, men and women, especially on the Republican side, talking about tapping into or reforming Social Security in order to pay for, tax cuts and that type of thing. Do you see this happening, or do you think it's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to have support to get done. I think likely they're going to have to go through another avenue to have bipartisan support to make any changes. And so I don't see that happening at all.
So where do we go from here? What do we do?
Well, I have a proposal, but I don't think the Democratic House would go for it. But what about making voluntarily some retirees, if they want, to opt in and privatize and move over to just a pure, 401k type structure?
I don't think that worked very well for President Bush.
Yes, but I will say President Trump has far less fear than President Bush did about public opinion. Do you think that that's something that he might be able to get some traction on?
I think we would all want to do it ourselves and not pay the taxes and hope that we do a better job than the government. But ultimately, I think the government's fear is that people won't do it, and then they'll become very reliant in their retirement ages on the U.S. government.
Yeah,
I know it's a mixed bag, right? I mean, I think we all feel like we could do better, but I just don't think the trust is there ultimately.
Yeah, I think we have to also remember before the New Deal, there were old people who were literally just starving, in the streets. They had no retirement. There was no safety net. So it's a really difficult situation.
Julio, you mentioned they might raise the age. What do you think? Because Social Security was created when the average life expectancy was much lower than it is today. Do you think that it's actually lagging behind because we've really shot up in terms of life expectancy overall relative to when Social Security started? I know it's ticked down the last couple of years, but it is much higher than when we first started Social Security.
Yeah, it started at age 62, and now we're getting close to 70. And so I think we'll probably get into that 70 range. And, that's unfortunate. I think, a lot of people retire earlier than that and rely on that income. So again, that's such a difficult thing to do. But I think, like you said, we don't want people in the streets, and we got to make sure we have some money available
down
the road.
As our deficit balloons. I think this is something that is going to come up again and again. It's not going anywhere. So this is a topic
Yeah,
we'll
that's
be
very true.
discussing a lot.
But Julio, has the Social Security system really ballooned? Because I do believe in a safety net. We should have systems to help.
Oh, it's a
seniors.
deficit.
Well,
balloon.
no, I'm just saying in general about Social Security, because if it was meant to help keep seniors out of poverty, but it's now basically subsidizing middle class lifestyles for wealthier seniors, do you think that's part of the problem, that some benefits are going to, in some cases, very wealthy retirees?
I think it's a good point, Carrie. I think, how do you tell someone that's paid into the system all their lives that they don't get a benefit when they retire? I mean, you're right. They could, basically do an AMT where, certain people are phased out of certain income levels. But that's tough even for anyone to think you've been paying in your whole life and now you don't get to be part of that.
Yeah, and I do think that it probably needs the wealthy people to pay in order to pay out to the less wealthy people. So I don't know if that would work. I'm not a Social Security expert, thankfully. This isn't something for us to solve right now, but we do know that it's going to be around. Us. This is something maybe politicians
we might
should
be
solve.
able to get when we retire.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a scary prospect, right? I'm already
Yeah.
paying into it, and I hope I get something out of it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Might just be Monopoly money you're putting in. All right. Thanks, Julio Gonzalez, for joining us.
All right, gals.
Bye.
So we're going to let our